in a few more people, and then I think we are good to go. Over to you, Joyce.
Great. Well, thanks for having me here today, Yanis. And I've really been looking forward to having this conversation. As Yanis mentioned, AI is a big topic these days. And as you might know, if you're familiar with higher education, we have a very large, complex ecosystem, which creates, I think, some additional governance issues or some more complex governance issues that we have to consider in relation to AI. And I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on maybe how we can control this situation that we're in. This is a picture of me summiting Mount Narrowe. It's a volcano in northern New Zealand. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. If it's looking familiar to you, it's because this area stood in for Mordor in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The day we summited, you can't tell from the picture, but the winds were in excess of 100 kilometers an hour. It's actually super windy at the summit of this volcano. And there were a few people that were evacuated from the mountain that day because they got injured. I'm really, really happy that we had this opportunity. I remember coming to the summit and seeing this amazing view. But in hindsight, I think I would ask myself, and I have asked myself, was that a reasonable thing to do? And on another day, maybe I might have been one of those people who would have been evacuated off of the mountain. So I wanted to include this picture because it reminds me in some ways, it parallels how I feel about our institutional use of AI, because we're accepting concerns when we use AI about accuracy, privacy and security, ethical considerations that realistically can only be partially addressed by the precautions that we might take. After all, we don't have the capacity to thoroughly evaluate every source that might be accessed. So by using AI, we're accepting some level of risk in these areas. Now, I know maybe some of you are thinking, well, just check your data sources or limit the scope of your data sources. So let's take a look at our web ecosystem. We have approximately 1,000 websites on our centrally supported Drupal-powered CMS, which is produced by our in-house team of developers. And we have an additional 500 custom sites on various platforms. And these sites are managed by a network of 1,500 site managers and editors with varying skills. And all of this makes for a super decentralized, continually evolving web ecosystem. And to drive that point home, I wanted to include this chart, which is a chart that shows the number of weekly edits across our public websites on our centrally supported platform. So that Drupal-powered platform. So we have 6,000 to 8,000 edits being made per week. With, as you might guess, the smallest number of edits being made in week 53, which is the week of Christmas, and the largest number of edits being made in week 34, which is the week, a week just before our new school year starts. So in addition to that, we have some further complication. We have a lot of policies and guidelines that impact how our digital spaces are built and managed. And these are also produced in a decentralized manner. For example, IT services produces policies and guidelines concerning our privacy and information security, and our accessibility strategic documents are produced by our equity team. So how do we ensure the quality and consistency of our websites and our web content? What can we do to ensure our content is optimized and that it complies with all the best practices and legal obligations that we need to follow? Well, for starters, we have our digital standards. So a little over 5 years ago, we organized that tangled policy of documentation that you saw on that last slide. We organized it into a cohesive resource, which we maintain in partnership with input from various stakeholders. And we have supporting resources and services like an established governance framework, training courses, and consultation support, to name a few, including, by the way, our brand new web registry, which we just launched a couple of weeks ago that we're very excited about. But most of all, and I know this part is essential to make all of this work in our environment, we have an engaged community of practice. So people across our institution who contribute to our efforts to evolve, promote, teach, and follow our standards. And these collaborations create an environment of trust and mutual support that underpins our governance framework. And this slide shows an example of our communities of practice in motion. I actually presented about this at the members meeting in Montreal a few months back, or a few weeks back. It's a screenshot of a cross-departmental project we led to map the digital journey of our students across all of the various properties that they navigate at McGill. So despite the complexities and challenges of our web ecosystem, we have defined standards, an established mature governance framework, and an engaged community of practice. So all is good, right? Well, not quite. Last year, we began to take steps to evolve our standards and governance to include use of GenAI. And this is one of the announcements we shared about this update. And I expect some of you have experienced similar situations. The resulting conversations were polarized to a degree that I've never encountered before, or I haven't encountered. There has been moments in my career that have come close, but this one, I think it takes the cake. And I've been working in academia for over 20 years, so I've seen a lot of polarized discussion. Most people we're finding either really love talking about AI. Oh, is my microphone off? Someone's saying that my microphone's off.
No, it's all good.
Okay.
We can hear you. Yep.
All right. So most people are either really love talking about AI and they're excited to explore all of its possibilities, or they hate talking about AI and they wish we just shut up. So what are the concerns people have? So here's some of the concerns we've heard from our community over their personal use, their own use of AI. The unfortunate result being some have refused to use AI at all, and perhaps even more unfortunately, some have decided to use it anyways. So in our community, these concerns have included people's concerns over their lack of knowledge, negative perceptions of using AI, environmental impact, ethical dilemmas, and concerns over data quality, data security, and lack of data governance. But I feel more troubling were concerns over the general use of AI that undermine these connections in our community of practice, making it difficult for us to maintain that environment of mutual support and trust. So people have a general lack of faith in others, not just in themselves, but a lack of faith in others that people will be able to use AI responsibly. There's also a concern over amplification of bias, that people aren't going to pay attention to addressing concerns about inherent bias and discrimination. And there's issues with the idea that the outputs are neither transparent nor predictable. And there is a lack of acknowledgement, I think, about this situation, this fact, that I think creates a lot of animosity in our discussion, because we get people that are being told that they should just get over it and that they should move on and use AI. And we're also seeing a little bit of this situation starting to arise again, with different departments creating AI policies and guidelines in silos without thinking about how they should dovetail with other policies being created by other departments. So a dark moment, I think, in terms of our ability to effectively govern and to establish a community of practice in our community. So where can we go from here? So here's some of the things that we're doing to try and rebuild that trust. One of the things that I'm so glad we're able to do is we can build on our existing standards and governance. And this is really helping us in terms of bringing our policies back together again, because it's an easy win for us just to remind stakeholders who are generating new policies that we have existing community awareness and buy-in. We have established mechanisms and processes for ongoing evaluation and revision. And we have defined methods for dealing with compliance challenges. And folks that are just trying to put their AI governance governance together, they're not starting with any of these really important, I think, things that you need to make your governance work. We also need to continue to have, to create opportunities for shared learning and discussion about use of AI. Here's an event we organized last year. It was held during Queer History Month, and we had a conversation about queerness in AI. So we've had different conversations with different groups in our communities, conversations with our web advisory committee, our student usability panel, our site managers and editors, and other groups. So creating these opportunities for shared learning and discussion are really important, again, to rebuilding that trust. I included this screenshot. I know lots of folks are talking about garbage in, garbage out when it comes to GenAI. I'm a big fan of Sarah Winters. If you're not familiar, I expect some of you probably are. Sarah Winters was the head of content governance at gov.uk when they launched their digital standards project and revamped their governance. So this quote was posted by Sarah on LinkedIn a few months ago. If your content is crap, your AI output is going to be crap, just saying. And we're finding that's true with our AI projects. So we have some serious cleanup to do with our data and our content. We need to make sure our content is reliable, that it's consistently documented, that it's accessible, and that it's secure. And right now, we aren't 100% in any of these areas on all those sites. The other thing we need to talk about is to make sure our content is structured and formatted in a way that's AI friendly. So if you're picking up on where I'm at in this conversation, I'm actually talking about things that are outside of the use of AI, talking about reformatting and cleaning up our existing content that wasn't produced using AI. So these are a couple of screenshots from a consultation I did last week from a team that's working on a chatbot using some of our web content. One of these pages does really well with the chatbot. When you ask it questions, it's able to answer very clearly. The other page doesn't do very well. And I actually wanted to do a poll here, but I didn't have time to set it up. So maybe people could weigh in the chat. Does anyone have thoughts on which one of these options does well in AI? So we've got, maybe you could say left or right. Do you think it's the one on the left that does well, or do you think it's the one on the right that does well? Bob says right.
And perhaps you can just clarify, doing well meaning?
Meaning that if you ask it questions, it does really well, and then it pulls up the information. So
which one is most AI friendly?
Yeah, which one is most AI friendly? Thanks.
All
so we
right.
have 4 people saying right, everyone's saying right. That's
this is just the sign of the times. Everybody's right here.
Yeah, everybody is right here. And you are right. That is the one that does well. But I'll tell you this, our audience does not know, our site managers and editors, the 1,500 people that are building our websites do not know why the one on the right is better than the one on the left. I know you all know why. And you've all, does someone want to maybe weigh in on the chat there and give some details on why the one on the right does well? Neatly structured content with headings. Andrew, nice to see you in the discussion. Availability of text. CURL experts, you know these things. But our audience does not know that. So they're coming to us with questions and asking, why are these pages doing well and why are these pages not doing well? And if you look through our website, you're probably going to see that there are a lot of pages that are problematic throughout our web space in terms of being formatted well for AI. One of the interesting things we've found out, by the way, and I don't know if you're discovering this as well, but when we ask AI to produce content, it doesn't always produce content that works well for AI search. I don't know if others have encountered that phenomenon, but that is the case. So yes, you're correct. The one on the right works well with AI. The one on the left doesn't work well. So that means for us, we need to continue exploring and evaluating AI's potential together. Again, looking at building trust in our community, trust amongst each other, the people that are creating content, and also trust in our governance structure. So we're encouraging uses that are structured and intentional in order to build trust, limiting scope. For example, so encouraging people to see use of AI on a scale where we're able to control and evaluate outputs, providing specific context, making it easy to check outputs, requesting references, requesting an outline of revisions, and doing things with and without AI. And it also means coaching people to measure value beyond just saving time. I know time saving is something lots of people are talking about. That is a factor, but there are other things to consider as well in terms of how valuable content is. And one of the concerns that we just mentioned is this problem that we're noticing where we're trying to generate content using AI and it's not producing content that's AI friendly. So all that said, I'm glad we have an existing set of standards and a governance framework to build off of. If your clients don't have an established set of standards or a governance framework, here are some key goals to consider aiming for. These are some of the goals we had in mind when we launched our standards. To ensure that relevant standards are presented in a way that's unified and cohesive in large institutional environments. That's not an easy thing to do. Establish processes for ongoing evaluation and refinement, define methods for monitoring and dealing with compliance issues, and fostering a community of practice. Number one. So my closing thought, I'm looking forward to having some discussion with you. I actually really hope we stop talking about AI governance. AI is a tool, and I think the idea of creating governance for just one of the tools we use is turning out to be a little extra. It's not good for us to create governance at such a granular level. To do so for us is inviting inefficiencies and it's increasing opportunities for inconsistency. If we have AI governance, what about everything that we do without using AI or things that we do using other tools? And the idea of AI governance is also creating problems for us, establishing environments of trust and mutual support. After all, one of the examples that I provided, how can we possibly create strong governance for something that's neither fully transparent nor predictable? So I don't think we need AI governance. We need good, effective governance that acknowledges impacts of AI in order to have communities of practice that embrace its use. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Perfect. Also on time, some very good insights. I think you covered the keyword trust. That's important to many I know on the call, and you were able to also make it engaging along the way. Just seeing the activity on the chat, starting with Mordor and looking at your text. I think if we take just one comment on the chat here from the last couple of minutes from our German member Bernd, who asked about whether you can use an AI agent to help with governance. I think that something that makes sense, you know, if you just think back in your work with McGill just a couple of years ago, where governance was kind of something that lived off in another office. Is that something you've thought of, making the good best practices more accessible by using something that's AI powered?
I think the difficulty always for us is that our environment is so siloed that there are difficulties creating consistency. And that is, overcoming that is something that requires human input. I would love for it to one day be possible, and I'm hoping it will be possible, but right now our governance, our content isn't in a state where it, I think, can be reliable. It can be in terms of helping us evaluate content and identifying where we might be able to make it easier for audience members to address governance issues. But in terms of using it to govern and to create our governance framework and to work out these, I think these human problems that we have, I don't think we're quite there yet. All
right. Very good. Any other questions, comments, reflections? I can keep asking Joyce questions, but we do have time. So if anybody wants, feel free to use the raise hand function, and then we can continue the Q&A. Perhaps one thing in the interim to break the ice, Joyce. I know that there's a little bit of a transition going on at McGill from digital comms to digital experience. Mm-hmm. Can you share a little bit about that, and perhaps also tell us if this whole arrival of LLM and agents has anything to do with it?
It doesn't, but I think it could play a role moving forward, because it certainly does. The concept of it does connect to the fact that the scope of the work that we do is expanding. So when we were originally named Digital Communications, we're part of communications and institutional relations, and the work that we're doing was connected mostly to our communications efforts. But over time, and it's through the success of our governance initiatives, that beyond our communications, different departments and project teams across campus started to reach out to us, because we were one of the few sources that had a cohesive digital governance framework and a set of standards that was easy to use in projects. So even though we weren't really reaching out to development teams for internal systems, they started coming to us to get help making the products that they were working on aligned with digital standards, and ensuring that those standards were aligned with mostly legal obligations that we need to comply with. So it isn't really connected. The renaming of our team isn't connected, but it does relate, I think, to the fact that with the way people are going to be accessing content now, using LLMs, that the scope of what we're doing is much broader than it was. It's not just communications related.
Yes, I'm seeing that also in many other member organizations, that what used to be perhaps more a specialist role over here, digital comms, it seems the scope and perhaps also the expectations is going up in all human jobs. On that note, let's pass it on to my friend in Firenze, Italy, Francesco.
Thanks, Janus, and thank you, Joyce. Very interesting. I'm also from a university, so I see a lot of commonalities in what you said. And my question is and I see the process you described. So you, I don't know how accidentally or on purpose, but you became a source of information because you have structured data, you have data governance, and that's today makes a key difference. But if I understood correctly, you are positioned in the communications departments of the university, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this transition doesn't shift you a bit more towards the technical side? Do you see yourself feel full in communications or more in the ICT technical services, or in between?
So our department was physically moved into IT services a few weeks ago. We're still part of communications, but we are now located in IT, and IT looks at us as being a sibling department within IT services. It's a good question to ask, and I love that you're bringing this up, because this is the fourth university that I've worked at, and every university I've worked at has had this question about whether the digital space should be governed by communications or IT services. And this is actually the first university that I've worked at where I felt like there has been a good solution for this relationship. Every other university I've worked at, and I have a presentation that I've done in the past about this, has had a really difficult, challenging relationship between these two groups. And here at McGill, I find that our collaboration, we have shared methodologies, we have different mandates and different goals and perspectives, but we do work very closely together in a very symbiotic way. So our designer on the communications team works very closely with the front end developers in IT, for example. I work very closely with the head of the development team to develop our policies and our governance framework. So there's a really strong connection between the two. When we talk about ourselves as the unified web services team. So we are from different teams. There's an IT part, there's a communications part, but together we make a unified team that serves the university.
Well, thank you, Joyce, also for touching on the topic of design, topic that's close to my heart. I wanted to go to another topic that's also related to AI, which may be the part of the title for this call that made so many people dial in. And that's this thing that I'm hearing in many organizations, also in higher ed, is that AI calls for a huge cleanup, because AI is surfacing all these things. You mentioned briefly that you had some work done on a web registry, but are you seeing this pain also, Joyce, that the AI is calling for a huge cleanup of the chaos?
Absolutely. I mean, this issue has been coming up again and again, even before AI showed up. And in that example that I showed you, where we were providing support to the team that was developing the chatbot, one of the things that they cited is, the results, the outputs have 5 different answers that are all of them, incorrect, and the correct ones are contradicting each other. And this is something that is a problem across our organization. And we're now bringing this into the conversation in terms of what AI means for us as an institution. It's actually giving us a bit of a boost in motivating people to clean up their content, because people are seeing that even if you want to leverage these benefits of these great tools with AI, you can't do it unless your content is in good shape. So we're right now migrating to a new version of Drupal. And the Drupal person that was the former Acquia person that was in here, we are migrating to Drupal 10. And as part of that project, we're trying to delete every website that hasn't been maintained in the past year. So we flagged these sites for deletion. We will not migrate them into the new platform unless somebody is on the team that is responsible for the website is designated to keep it up to date on an ongoing basis. So we're trying to get rid of content that isn't maintained, and also impressing upon people the need to fix up and format their existing content.
Very good, Joyce. We made it right on time. Thank you so much. The conversation continues on AI, but also on digital governance. Thank you very much, Joyce, also for reminding us that the conversation around AI can be very polarized. So I think I really find it welcoming how you approach it with curiosity and open mind. So thank you for that. Thank you for getting all of this together. Thank you, everybody who joined us. That's all we had.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See you again. Bye.
See you soon.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.